So we're going to start out reading in Proverbs chapter 30. The words of Agur, son of Jakeh, the oracle. The man declares, I am weary, O God, I am weary, O God, and worn out. Surely I am too stupid to be a man. I have not the understanding of a man. I have not learned wisdom, nor have I knowledge of the Holy One. So Agur is in a place of, I don't understand knowledge. I mean, we don't know much about him, but he's saying, like, God, I'm weary. I'm too stupid. Even to say I'm too stupid to be a man, I'm more like other translations, I'm like a beast. I was like a beast before you, it talks about in the Psalms. But he's lamenting, or he's in sorrow over he probably doesn't have much biblical knowledge. He may have studied Torah in school. Torah is the Old Testament for the Jews, if you didn't know that. Um, Either way, he's probably upset. Is like, I don't understand. I have not the understanding of a man. I mean, this was me growing up with school. Like, I just didn't understand basic things. I just felt slow. I get angry. Like geometry, and all my other friends and classmates were just passing the flying colors. And it's like, I even get like this in life. I don't want to make this about me. I'm just sharing how I really feel. But it's like, this is why, brethren, you cannot measure your success by other people. I mean, my idea of success, I'm 26 now, but what I wanted, the dream I wanted to be in college. I wanted to maybe have a family and just have this smooth sailing life, do ministry, just have a bunch of money for ministry, have my own psychiatrist clinic. Like, I want to be a psychiatrist. That's my dream. But um and so much rage. Just like, I don't understand it, like math, and just have to try. I've always had to try so hard with learning practical things like that growing up, and that can be the same for the Bible. I mean, what it says, without knowledge, the people are destroyed. I believe in Hosea or somewhere in there in the Old Testament. The people without a vision, the people will perish. I mean, brethren, he's worn out. I'm weary. And this is for the message for the believers that they don't know a lot about the Bible, but they're saved. They're born again. If you're saved, thank God. I mean, it talks about spiritual immaturity. It talks about in Hebrews, like, hey, you have to be taught the basics again. You should actually be teachers by now. And I believe that's a lot of believers. They don't get in their word. They don't renew their mind. I mean, they're saved, thank God. But that's been me lately. I mean, I find myself, if I'm not renewing it, I find myself like secular songs going through my mind. It's like, why am I humming Frank Ocean, throughout the day? And it's not good, brethren. I should be singing spiritual songs, excuse me. But just know this: God uses useless, not intelligent people. People that aren't considered wise and just like really big to the earth. I mean, you're seen as useless. I mean, there's people that literally have nothing and they have everything. I mean, you could line up the Christian is the most important. That's the most important person in the world. And what I mean by that is that Christians are the most important people in the world. I say that because it's true, because they've come to know who Christ is. Is that to boast in it? No, it's not. But there's no other person who will be the salt, okay? It'll be the salt of the earth, holding back evil. But to come, the reason we're important is not because of what we do, but it's because of who we know. And when I say that, people are already getting mad, like, oh, no, you're not that important. It's like, I know, I'm talking about the person we know. The shepherd, the real shepherd we know, he's the one important. But we've come to share in knowing who he is, and now he lives inside of us so we can bear fruit. Do we still mess up? Yes. Do we still sin? Yes. But without Christ, it's pointless. It's pointless, brethren. We're going to read in 1 Corinthians next. For consider your calling, brothers. Not many of you were wise according to worldly standards. Not many were powerful, not many of noble birth, but God chose what is foolish in the world to shame the wise. God chose what is weak in the world to shame the strong. God chose what is low and despised in the world, even things that are not, to bring to nothing things that are, so that no human being might boast in the presence of God. So that as it is written, let the one who boasts boast in the Lord. And I know some of you are even tripping about the comment I made, like how Christians are the most important people in the world. But I just read to you, this is believers. We're bringing to nothing the things that are. I mean, you can compare. I mean, look, brethren, look at the Elon Musks of the world. You take a random, I don't know, let's just say, just take me. I work at Sprouts. I do my everyday things. I mean, I don't seem that important. It didn't seem like big things. But I mean, most people would probably prefer to talk to Elon Musk. If it just was a stranger off the side of the street, I mean, they want to talk to him, right? I don't believe he's a Christian. I hope he gets saved if he's not. But when it comes down to it, brethren, we preach Christ crucified. It's a stumbling block to Jews, and it's foolish to Gentiles. Gentiles are people that aren't Jews. Because back in Paul's day, there were these the Gentiles of that day were very philosophic. I mean, this is a philosophical age we're in, and it's good and bad that you can access so much information on the internet. And brethren, not too long ago, I was talking to this guy, and he knew so much. He's not saved, but he knew so much. And it's like, man, if he gets saved, God can use him so much. But the verse that came to mind is like they're always learning but never coming to the knowledge of the truth, the gospel that saves you. I mean, it's right in front of them, because people so often are so zealous for this world, and this world will fail you. I mean, on my Instagram, when I used to make edits, and my YouTube, it was fine when I was editing dark music, just bad stuff, what I was doing, just making crazy edits, completely devoid of God, the message of the cross, nothing. But the moment you start talking about the gospel, everyone dipped. I mean, the only friends that can respect my beliefs, and I respect them, I mean, they stayed around. But I mean, the majority of my audience left. Why? Because men hate the light. They don't want to hear it. In Romans, it says they suppress the truth in unrighteousness. There's no such thing as an atheist. Everyone believes in God. But people twist the truth about God. They want, it's like, well, my God does this, my God does that. I talked to one guy, he was like, well, I don't really read my Bible, but my Jesus is my Jesus. Like, my version of Jesus is my version. That's idolatry. You're shaping God into what you want him to be. And we do that, brethren. We do that as believers. It's like, well, he's kind of okay with me doing this. I can kind of I could sleep around here, watch stuff I shouldn't. I mean, he understands, right? It's an attempt. It's idolatry, brethren. And I got convicted not too long ago of doing this. It's like I'm making excuses when I'm painting God into my image, what I think is right. But look, God chose what is low and despised in the world. Most Christians are despised. I mean, where you take a street evangelist, just has an everyday job, and it's like they expect this power, like they expect just the man of God to have these superpowers, and we don't. We just our weapons are mighty for warfare. It talks about. I mean, we have invisible weapons you can't see to knock down strongholds and all the lies of the devil and false religion and human philosophy and the things of this age. But it's big things. I mean, there's a song by Cross Movement called Big Things. I posted it, an edit to it not too long ago, but it's just that strong. That song strengthens me. I love it because it's so true. God uses the despised things of the world, and I'm so grateful for God that He chose to shame. It's not. I'm not enjoying people being shamed, but it's the fact that just in the wisdom of God, He chose what is weak and foolish. And I forgot to write it down, but it talks about how God has made foolish the wisdom of this world. So God takes all basically of man's philosophy and the great debaters and the philosophers of this age, and He just sees it as foolish. And people have these long, just brethren. I mean, even this, I'm weary. Not in the same way that Auger was talking about, but I'm so weary of just all worldly knowledge and the thumbnails of people talking about this and that, just like every doctrine tossed to and fro, just empty, pointless psychobabble, just talking about nothing. And it's the message of the gospel is just right here. Just God's waiting for you. But you'd rather spend your time just learning all this pointless knowledge. It's so futile. I mean, brethren, I mean, some of the stuff I see people talk about and post, it's like, are you going to be thinking about this when you're dead? Like, I think about hell. The people that have passed on to eternal damnation right now, are they thinking about all the stuff they philosophized about and did and all the TikToks and just all the knowledge, all the stuff they absorbed? Like, are they thinking about that? They gained the world and lost their soul, brethren. Okay, it's not a game. Speaking of useless people, let's see what Jesus has to say. Jesus, aware of this, withdrew from there, and many followed him, and he healed them all. This was to fulfill what was spoken by the prophet Isaiah. A bruised reed he will not break, and a smoldering wick he will not quench. Remember those words, bruised reed and smoldering wick. Remember those. We're going to talk about that. Until he brings justice to victory, and in his name the Gentiles will hope. So Jesus healed these people following him, and this was prophetic. But Isaiah, so a bruised reed is basically a musical instrument put together by shepherds for their sheep. But once it's bruised, it's useless. It's broken. But Jesus says, I want him. That's what I want. I want the useless, broken person that has nothing. That's who I want. And you would think, because look at the world. I mean, look at worldly standards. We want the guy in the suit. I mean, we look at man's outer appearance when God, I just read it, but God looks at the inner person. He looks at the heart. But brethren, even us, we do it. But he doesn't want the man in his suit. He wants the man in rags with nothing. Okay, poor in spirit. Blessed are the poor in spirit, meaning those who have nothing to offer God. Not self-righteous, not no, I'm a good person, none of that. Don't start with that. A smoldering wick. So a smoldering wick is basically a candle. It's about to go out, but not quite. But it just causes smoke everywhere. It's useless. And it's also annoying. If you have a smoldering wick, you blow it out. It's like, I mean, back in ancient days, obviously they had to use lamps and then candles. And you can use these still today. But if you're having a candle in the house, I mean, you've seen it. It's smoldering. It's like, just blow it out. Why would you want to keep that? You see, in our estimate, it's like, why would we want to keep a smoldering wick? And God says again, I want that. I want you. I love you. I want you. And if you feel weak and despised of this world, you think you just never had anything, you can have Christ and have everything. Now, is it going to be easy? No, it's the hardest walk in the world. I mean, you have to take up your cross, deny yourself. You have to repent, turn from your old ways. I'm not preaching an easy gospel here. I mean, this is hard. I mean, it says some people will strive to enter and they won't be able to because their heart is so hard and they put it off for so long. It's like, well, forget it. And they're so hard and it's like, well, I'll just go to hell. But they don't know what they're saying. I mean, if you said that or if you believe that, you really don't know what you're saying because you just don't understand the sheer horror of it. And in the end, he's like, the Gentiles will hope. I mean, Gentiles are people that aren't Jews. That's us. I mean, really, we don't know where the real, like, biologically, like, who the Jews really are. I mean, I think that there's people that have access to their lineage, but it doesn't matter because a real Jew, it's the circumcision of the heart by the Holy Spirit. So really, Christians are Jews inwardly. So, but even if you are Jewish by race, I mean, that doesn't give you any profit because Jew and Gentile are under sin. But we see this happening in the new covenant. I mean, most Gentiles believe in Jesus, and it's just so cool that he took smoldering wicks and bruised reeds. Like, why would you want to use that? I mean, a bruised reed is, I mean, as a shepherd, it's like, I'm done. I'm throwing it away. A smoldering wick, I'm blowing it out. And see, God sees that. He sees all of our smoke in the air, just the sin and all that. He's not going to put it out. And brethren, on my worst days, this verse comes to mind. Also, another book, if you want to read, The Bruised Reed by Richard Sibbs, also a really good book to read. Just it's crazy how God just uses stuff, man. Because this, I just so happened this book was next to me, and I started talking about this. It's just God is a genius. Speaking of love, and brethren, I'm talking about Christians who feel they have to know the whole Bible. Brethren, the basics is love. I am so tired of knowing stuff and not changing. I just, some days I cry about it because it's like I know so much and I'm still doing the things that I don't want to do. And it's sin, it's indwelling sin. It's like I mean, brethren, the other day I said bye to someone at my job and they didn't say anything back. And I felt anger and I felt like I was cursing them in my heart. And it's like, am I really doing this right now? That's why we need grace. I mean, apart from grace, we have nothing. And I can only say, God, I'm sorry. I cursed someone just because I didn't say it. I mean, it's bad either way. But I just had to ask for mercy because it's just like, God, I'm sorry. I'm sorry. I'm so, I'm worn out. I'm weary. I'm too stupid to be a man sometimes. I'm like a beast before God, it seems like. This is the love chapter, 1 Corinthians 13. If I speak in the tongues of men and angels, but have not love, I'm a noisy gong or a clanging cymbal. And if I have prophetic powers and understand all mysteries and knowledge, and if I have faith so as to remove mountains, but not love, I am nothing. Love is patient, kind, does not envy or boast. It is not arrogant or rude. It does not insist on its own way. It is not irritable or resentful. It does not rejoice at wrongdoing, but rejoices with truth. Love bears all, believes all things, hopes all things, endures all things. Love never ends. Remember that. Love never ends. For prophecies, they will pass away. For tongues, they will cease. As for knowledge, it will pass away. So knowledge, biblical knowledge, prophecies, that stuff's going to go away because in heaven, it'll be fulfilled. Whenever there's a new heaven and a new earth, that's going away. But see, the love of God endures for every generation. It's going to endure for eternity. I mean, billions of years will pass in heaven, and God's going to be the same. And that's the wonderful thing about heaven. You're never going to leave. You're going to always be there. But that's the shunning thing about the lake of fire because it's always going to be there. There's no getting out. People teach that there's a second chance stuff. It's like, no. It's appointed to die. Every man is appointed to die. After this is the judgment, said in Hebrews. But I know a lot of you do this because it's like, well, I want to learn more. I mean, the only reason I know probably the Bible is because I have religious OCD, or scrupulosity, and God in His wisdom had me born with that. It's been my very salvation and it's been my torment. Because if I wouldn't have read that verse in Matthew 7, where it talks about depart from me, I never knew you, I probably wouldn't have gotten saved. But God used it for His glory. And of course, I don't wish it on anybody. But if some of you are struggling, wow, where do I start? It's like start with a chapter a day. I mean, get in the Word. You have time. Don't say you have time, but just start with the Book of John, something simple, and then work your way up. Start with the short epistles of in the New Testament, and then just take your time. I mean, I will. There's some believers I know where they may not know a lot of the Word, but they have love, and that is better. I will take that over knowledge any day. I get so tired of being. It annoys me sometimes, like just intellectualism and just making the Bible an idol, worshiping the Bible. It seems like knowledge and not Christ, where the Bible connects us with God, where we communicate with God. But I have to always teach myself the basics over and over and over again, and it's frustrating because it's almost like Paul. He just laments like this wretched man I am, and I just need God's grace because I mean, I want to see, brethren, I want to see people and just have infinite love for them. Okay? And it's just so easy to be intellectual. It's just so easy to know and not do. Like the book of James, it's like a man who looks in the mirror. The man who doesn't practice his faith, he walks away, forget what he looks like. It's vain. It's pointless. So, brethren, If you are discouraged, if you feel useless, if you feel weak, God will not put out. He will not put you out like that smoldering wick, and He won't. He won't take away the bruised reed. Just remember, this is God. What He said.